Alright, I'm trying out a new setup. Water is very important when you record. We'll see how this goes. Wish me luck. Alright. His Name Was Bob, by Lywelen. Chapter 13. Flowers, Part 2. Bob sat tapping his chin with a finger for a few seconds before asking,
"Speaking of age, how old were you when you went to live on your own?"
15. You must have been frowning because Bob went silent again. You both continued to watch the clouds for a bit, listening to the sounds of the kids shouting and doing whatever kids did in the distance. After a while, he asked,
"You been working with that doctor at the vet hospital since then?"
"Yeah. Ha! Even after they saw right through my fake ID. Dr. Rivera and Gary, they're good people." You trailed off, staring at the sky.
"Am I allowed to ask about any of your parents?"
He tried. Before you could answer, you were interrupted by a shadow cast over you. You sat up.
"Dude, awesome!"
Some college-age guy said as he leaned over the two of you.
"Yo, Chuck, come check it out! They've got an edgy, too!" "Dude!"
No, I did this at the same time. Okay. Small.
"Dude!"
A baby blue, which you now noticed, chirped happily at you from the guy's shoulder. It smiled and waved, It smiled and waved, regarding you with bright, glowing blue eyes. Another guy, Chuck you assumed, jogged up beside his friend, or brother, you noticed, since they were literally identical twins. Sure enough, Chuck did have an edgy on his shoulder, but the edgy was wearing a harness leash and what looked to be a makeshift basket muzzle on his face. As they neared, the edgy narrowed its eye sockets and snarled at you. You were kind of taken aback. You knew the edgies were essentially clones, but you just weren't expecting him to look exactly like Bob. He even wore the same annoyed expression Bob more than occasionally showed, arms folded tightly over his chest and everything. Eerie. And you couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Chuck made a show of leaning over with his hands on his knees, catching his breath as his edgy almost fell off his shoulder.
"Come on, bro. I'm not used to running up and down these hills."
"Bro!"
The baby blue laughed, looking over and waving at Chuck, who didn't seem to notice. The brother just laughed and stuck his hand out to you.
"Hi, I'm Jeff."
A handshake? You shook his hand anyway.
"And this poor out-of-shape excuse for a man is Chuck."
He motioned with his thumb as Chuck grinned lopsidedly and shrugged beside him, almost toppling his edgy again.
"And you are?"
You gave your name, folding your arms. "And this is Bob," you said, looking over at said Bitty, who was staring at the other edgy, and was not saying anything.
"Haha, Bob, I like it. This is Gabby, for obvious reasons."
Jeff grinned at the baby blue, who grinned back and nodded enthusiastically. Seemed baby blues had more human-looking teeth.
And this little shit is Cujo,"
Chuck declared, poking him on his shoulder as the edgy snarled and tried to bite his finger through his muzzle. Chuck just laughed and poked him again. You winced but didn't say anything.
"So, me and my bro are down in the area visiting family for the summer while school's out. You from around here?"
Jeff asked. You nodded.
"Oh man," he continued, "it's weird not only finding someone else with a bitty, but someone with an edgy at that. Haven't found many in this area that have them. I've gotta ask, how did you get yours not to bite or run away or break stuff like they tend to do?"
You glanced at Bob, who was folding his arms and giving you an uneasy look. He clearly wasn't too keen on talking with these people either.
"Yeah, I want to know too. Oh man, I was this close."
Chuck held his hand up with his thumb and pointer finger close together.
to returning Cujo here and getting a baby blue instead. But luckily I found a guy online who makes leashes and muzzles. Plus, it's funnier Jeff having a sweet baby blue and me having an evil edgy, you know?
He laughed like it was one of the funniest jokes ever as his brother grinned at him. Pardon me. Sorry. Gabby smiled. Sorry. Gabby smiled uneasily, and Cujo shifted uncomfortably. Did these guys even realize their biddies could probably understand them? Well, at least their biddies looked well cared for physically. Clean clothes, bright eyes. Well, maybe Cujo's glowing eyes were a little more dim. You wished you could help him, like you always did when you saw creatures in people's care that clearly weren't getting the best care.
Not real talkative, are you? Jeff mused. That's okay. Maybe we can go out and get to know each other over some lunch.
He raised his eyebrows hopefully.
Lunch!
Gabby declared helpfully. I've got somewhere else to be, actually. You made a show of checking your wrist. You forgot your watch. Awkward. Just go with it. Yeah, nice meeting you all.
Wait! At least tell us how you got your edgy to act so tame. Here, let me show you the one trick I got Cujo to learn, and maybe you can give me some pointers.
Chuck looked at Cujo, who started growling at him.
Cujo, do your trick!
Cujo started growling louder. Chuck flicked him, and Cujo flinched, putting his hands up to shield his skull.
Cujo, do your trick!
Chuck raised his hand up to flick him again.
Stop it!
You yelled, and all eyes, human and Bitty, turned to look at you.
You shouldn't treat him like that!
Chuck snorted. I don't know why I felt the need to jump, but okay.
What? Why? They're not even alive. They're like robots with bones. They can mimic words and feelings, but they're not actually living. They don't actually feel. Silly.
You're wrong! You glared at him and could feel your face heating up. You were getting angry, but you had to make them understand. Chuck and Jeff looked at each other and started laughing as the biddies on their shoulders stared at you curiously.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Jeff chuckled. Jeff?
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Jeff chuckled as he wiped at his nose.
I didn't know you were one of those crazy animal rights nut jobs. My brother's right, though. Well, interesting. Biddies aren't alive.
You seriously believe that, don't you? Do you even pay attention to the biddies you care for? How they react to you, or the faces they make when you all talk? They are alive. They have to eat and breathe just like people. They feel, and they can understand everything we're saying. Great. You were shaking now you were so angry.
Aw, do you understand me, Cujo? Do you have feelings? Can you make faces with your static skeletal face?
Sorry, that made me laugh.
Can you make faces with your static skeletal face?
Chuck cooed at his edgy. Cujo turned his wide eyes away from you to glare at Chuck.
He's not answering. Guess it's a no then.
Chuck grinned at you.
Do you even know why they, quote, eat and breathe, even though they don't have organ systems?
You didn't, and it made you even more upset you didn't. Chuck looked down at you smugly.
Well, I'll tell you. Their supposed soul needs fuel and oxygen to stay working, which does not automatically make it a living thing. Combustion engines aren't alive and need the same to stay working and moving. Also, ever notice how biddies change temperatures constantly? It's to emulate emotions. Warm for happy and colder for sad. Not exactly something other living creatures do.
Again, you were speechless. You didn't know that. But he was still wrong about them.
That's okay. Not everyone is smart enough to study up on the things they own, I guess. And they were created to appear to have emotions, so I can see how some people make that mistake. Seriously, though, come to lunch with us. Tell me how you got your edgy to behave, and maybe we can teach you about bitties? Jeff asked hopefully.
Gabby was wringing his hands, looking nervously between you and Jeff. Clearly reading the situation was not falling in Jeff's favor, even though Jeff wasn't seeing it. Oh, hell no. Before you could tell them off, Bob spoke up.
You really are stupid, huh? You must be. Thinking you can just insult someone's intelligence and they'd still go to lunch with you. Someone who's clearly got more brains than the two of you combined.
Both Chuck and Jeff stared at Bob in shock with their jaws comically held open. Cujo narrowed his eyes at Bob, and Gabby put a hand over his mouth and stared at him wide-eyed.
Holy shit, Jeff breathed. I don't think I've ever seen a bitty so articulate. How? Can I see him?
He stepped closer. You stepped back. No, we're leaving.
How much? Chuck asked, eyeing Bob. How much do you want for your bitty?
You spared one glare. Bob spared him one finger, and turned around, starting to walk away.
I'll give you 15,000. I can write you a check right now, Chuck called after you.
You kept walking.
25,000. Come on, that's like over double what he's worth,
he called as he and his brother followed you. You stopped and wheeled around, Chuck's hopeful look quickly turning sour as he took in your expression. Fuck off, you spat at him. Cujo had to put two hands over his muzzle to stifle his laughter. Luckily, Chuck didn't notice. God, you wished you could help Cujo. You turned and started walking again, and this time they didn't follow you. You wanted to punch something. Smug little shits. They're poor biddies.
Bad day?
Bob asked quietly as you neared the car. Bad day, you agreed.
Video games?
He looked at you hopefully. Video games. You let out a breath, laughing. That Saturday wasn't all bad. Later that night, you all did go eat burgers. The look on Bob's face as he bit into his burger with cheese and extra mustard was priceless. He practically had tears in his eye sockets, he was so excited. To Bob's chagrin, you even managed to snap a picture of him on your phone while he ate, getting burger and mustard all over himself. Haha, blackmail for later. Of course, one of the glass cups did end up shattered on the ground by accident. You'd have to remember to specify plastic cups only next time you all went out. Alright, that was me testing up this new setup. Let me know what you think. And if you guys want more parts of this, let me know.